Welcome to Degrees of Maternity, a channel devoted to nurturing real personal and professional growth by bringing about a sense of self-awareness and encouraging life improvements for the long term. Let's face it, when you're dealing with a world pandemic, it's easy to feel helpless and not in control of the events that are unfolding around you. It seems as if all the heavy decisions are in others' hands. And most of the time, you might feel as if you're functioning in a reactionary mode instead of a proactive zone. And it's okay to feel this way because we all are dealing with a lot of fallout that's not within our means to control. I'm sure I don't have to give you a rundown of all the negative consequences that a pandemic can trickle down to the individuals under its influence. But today is going to be a message of positivity, of hope, of encouragement, to control what you can control. Look, we don't have to feel completely helpless. While the higher-ups are planning to roll out decisions that will affect every living human on the face of this planet, and hopefully they'll make the right decisions, we can individually make decisions that affect ourselves and our families. Take, for instance, the fact that this pandemic has created a panic that resulted in people pretty much emptying store shelves and aisles of household staples, canned goods, packaged dry foods, household cleaning supplies, and toiletries for weeks now. Some items are coming back and staying for longer periods on the shelves, but others seem to disappear just as soon as the store personnel are able to place them out for purchase. So, where does that leave a person who needs the items that are never on the store shelves these days? I guess that person does without or figures out other creative ways to meet the gap that certain hard-to-find products are leaving unfulfilled. There are ways to substitute other products or cleanliness processes for a lack of toilet paper, for instance, or no toilet paper at all. But who really wants to think of something like that? Pretty uncomfortable, isn't it? Anyway, one thing that this pandemic has done is it's opened up my eyes to the fact that our societies are too self-reliant on other societies. Or, as individuals, we're too self-reliant on everyone else to provide our products and services. We're on the consumer trail, never researching and venturing into the self-rewarding territories of being producers and creators of our own stuff. As I was thinking on the fact that many people are living in a very dependent state and aren't functioning with any semblance of self-sufficiency, it's no wonder that we can feel quite helpless and in a lack of control in just about every arena in our lives while dealing with this pandemic. And what are you going to do about it? Just wait to be handed whatever fallout our world's current condition has in store for you, when in reality that fallout may not be the best situation for you and your family at all? Well, let me suggest that we control what we can control. And I'd like to take today's video and start with our food consumption. We may not be able to produce our own toilet paper, or maybe some of you can, but we can be the producers of our own food. It just takes a process to do so. But with many of us at home right now, there's no time like the present to see what we can learn and try to put into practical use for the betterment of ourselves and our loved ones. Now, I thought this would be a good time to recite some excerpts from my blog post entitled Productivity Tuesday, No Better Time for a Garden, which originally appeared on my Degrees of Maternity blog on April 7th. And although we're about 2 weeks from that date at this particular point, I wanted to bring this post before you because its validity is still on point. Let's talk about growing your own food. And here goes the blog post. After reading the title for this blog post, you may be thinking that I've lost it, but I assure you that I'm of sound mind. So sound of a mind that I'm going to propose we consider this time we're living in as a great time to start growing your own food, if you haven't started already. Okay, this type of project isn't going to be a priority for those who have very pressing survival mode and health issues to deal with in these times. But for those stuck at home, looking for something constructive to do to pass the time, I'm going to suggest starting your own garden. Honestly, we may not be in a position to ignore such an opportunity. Case in point, have you seen the scarcity effect lately in your local grocery stores? And with a deadly virus roaming around, it's hard to not be concerned about the safety of your foods, especially foods that are exposed in grocery stores, such as fresh fruits and vegetables. But look on the bright side. There is a bright side if you look for it. We're at the beginning of April, and this is a lovely time to see if we can get something else to grow besides our beautiful array of outdoor flowers, bushes, and trees. For some time, I've been an admirer of those who are successful in, or at least try to grow and raise the food that they eat. And my family is no stranger to getting our hands involved in some dirty work. As a matter of fact, we've had multiple years of food growing in pots above ground, in the ground, and on trees. So I think we're sold on seeing what healthy goodness we can extract from the earth using our own two hands. Well, actually, my children have been much more active on the gardening front than I'll ever claim to be. Husband too. And what I've come to learn is from observing their handiwork with their green thumbs. I want to take the opportunity to mention how important it may become in having access to growing your own food, even if it's just a very modest start. I'm all about using what you've got and doing what you can with it. In fact, I've heard of many people who don't have a lot of outdoor space making the best use of their balconies, patio areas, hanging baskets, indoors and outdoors pots, and raised beds to grow the good stuff in limited spaces. So no excuse. And you can get some inexpensive seeds, pots, and soil to start small and work your way up. Now, if you're looking for a reference that provides creative ways to grow your garden cheap in tight places or in spaces where you're not allowed to dig where you live, there's an excellent resource you might want to check out called Grow All You Can Eat in 3 Square Feet. I'll leave a link to information about the book in the description section below the video. For those interested in attempting an indoor garden until it's safe to start planting seeds outside, which would be after the last frost day for your locale, I wanted to leave you with some words of wisdom from my daughter and her experiences with indoor gardening thus far. Here are some suggestions for your indoor garden. It's fine to start out with the little soil peat pellets or pods initially for your indoor garden. Read the instructions that come with the pods or kit, but it's usually suggested that you plant multiple seeds per pod. Planting multiple seeds gives you better odds of getting at least one plant to germinate per pod. A lot was learned from our tomato plants, for instance. With the tomato plants, all 3 seedlings germinated in all of the pods where they were planted. So, 2 of the plants were cut down to leave the strongest one to grow. The kit did suggest that there should only be 1 plant growing per pod. It's good to invest in a grow light for your plants and to make sure and establish a structured lights on, lights off routine where the plants are getting 14 to 16 hours of light a day. The grow light should not be on at night. As the plants start to grow up, it may require moving the grow light further and further up and away from the plants because too much light or heat on the plants can cause the leaves to shrivel up. Now, as for the watering schedule, just make sure to water the plants when the soil looks dry. Self-watering pots can be very helpful to regulate water consumption because the water is poured into the bottom of the pots and soaks into the soil to water the plants. When leaves turn yellow, that usually means that you're overwatering your plants. You probably need to cut down on the amount of water you use or cut down on the frequency in which you water your plants. The leaves turning colors can also be an indication of deficiencies or unfavorable growing conditions for the plants. When the tomato plant's leaves turned purple, it meant that they needed to be transplanted into a bigger pot with more soil. You can use regular potting soil when transplanting plants from the soil pods to pots. However, it's important to fertilize the soil every once in a while with plant food. You can search online to see what nutritional food option would be the best for your garden's soil. You want to make sure that you keep your soil rich in nutrients so that it doesn't suffer from a deficiency in phosphorus. Tomato plants are heavy phosphorus feeders. Look up your last frost date by city, state, or zip code to determine when to transfer your plants from indoors to outdoors. You'll want to make sure and transfer your plants after the last frost date. Also, you'll use the last frost date to determine how far ahead you should plant each fruit or vegetable indoors before the last frost date. The time to plant differs by type of plant. You can search for this online or check out the book I previously mentioned. Remember, the post that I just cited for you was done in early April, so it may be more advantageous to go straight to outdoor gardening at this point. It's never too late to start your garden, so do your own research and look into the best times to plant certain seeds and get going. The book I previously mentioned will give you some good information, and again, you can always search on the internet. Furthermore, if you have children who like to be outdoors, this would be a good activity to get them involved in. You could even make it a part of their homeschooling. Not only will you be providing your children with an activity that teaches them life-sustaining skills and encourages self-sufficiency and healthy habits, but you'll get some help with your gardening chores. I say, spread the fun for everyone. I hope you all were edified by today's table discussion. And if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, make sure to join me for the next video, where you're sure to find some real talk about real life. Until next time.